Shabbat Shalom. This week's Torah portion is Vayak'hel, and he gathered. And it is one of a number of Torah portions, the part of which we've already looked at, that discuss the building of the tabernacle. I'd like to focus on a few verses in chapter 35, the very end of chapter 35, where Moses appoints Bezalel to be in charge of the artistic elements of the tabernacle. And I'll read the verses, starting in verse 30. And Moses said to the children of Israel, "See, the Eternal has called by name Bezalel, the son of Uri, the son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah, and he has filled him with the Spirit of God, in wisdom and understanding and in knowledge and in all manner of work, and to devise curious works, to work in gold and in silver and in copper, and in the cutting of stones, to set them, and in carving of wood, to make any manner of cunning work. And he has put in his heart that he may teach, both he and Oliav, the son of Achisamach, of the tribe of Dan. He's filled with wisdom of heart to work all manner of work of the engraver and of the cunning workman and of the embroiderer in blue purple and in red purple, in crimson and in fine linen, and of the weaver, even of them that do any work, and of those that devise cunning work." Actually, the word here that I see is repeated over and over in the English translation. The word of cunning is really a word that in Hebrew is machshevet. And I think cunning very often implies a negative, someone who's sly. Actually, in the Hebrew, it's much more, the word machshevet comes from the word thinking. And it is various types of work that require great thought. Now, if you notice in these verses, there is a constant repetition of the fact that, and the emphasis on the fact that it is God who has given these various people the talents and the abilities to do the various artistic works. And each of the different types of crafts or works that are described here, one after the other, described in great detail, working with precious metals, weaving, working with fabrics, all of these things are spelled out. And each time we're talking about God giving a special sort of wisdom, a special sort of heart, perhaps a sensitivity, the ability to teach, all of which having to do with these various crafts and artistic abilities. Now, this really presents us with, I think, a very important way of looking at the whole area of aesthetics to begin with. The tabernacle, the building of the tabernacle, is described in very great detail in quite a number of chapters. And from my perspective, very often, I think many people reading it wonder why the detail, it may even be dull at some points, and I think different people derive different sorts of meaning or lack of meaning in all this detail. But I think in this number of verses, it gives us actually a method, an ability to reflect on the entire work of the tabernacle itself. Because here, the appointing of the artists themselves, and particularly of Bezalel, is taking place. The verses here don't say Moses has decided to call upon Bezalel because he noticed that he has unusual artistic talent, and therefore he says, "I've seen your paintings, I've seen your drawings, I've seen your sculptures, we'd like you to take that talent and apply it to the building of the tabernacle." That is the kind of appointment that we're used to, certainly, for example, in the Middle Ages and the Renaissance, the Great Renaissance in Europe, the Italian masters, the great churches, the great masterpieces of Europe. Certainly, when people were appointed, even to religious positions as artists, their artistic ability is what counted. And there's no question that these people had to have artistic ability, otherwise they wouldn't have been able to do the work. But on the other hand, that is not what the scripture says here. The verses here talk about the Spirit of God. And it talked about an appointment of people that it is as a result of God's giving them this sort of spirit that is going to enable them to create these beautiful masterpieces. The other thing I think that's very important, if you look at the detail of the tabernacle, on the one hand, the tabernacle itself is made from very simple items to a certain degree. Animal skins, for example, are used very much so in the various coverings that are in the tabernacle, but on the other hand, there are some items that are really very, very beautiful. Things that are made of copper, of silver, of gold, the altar, the laver, the table, many of these items. And I think what this whole detail is, particularly about these verses, is telling us is that aesthetics matter. The beauty matters. But it is not beauty as, for example, would have been so prevalent in pagan cultures, beauty turning that into something that in and of itself is worshipped. In this particular time in particular, the nations around them, the nations, Egypt from which they have left, if they are going to use gold or silver, they will either use it for jewelry to perhaps show off what they have or their wealth, or they would use it to create idols or objects of worship. In this case, the tabernacle itself, these various items, they are not items that will be worshipped. They are items that will be used in order to worship God. And so basically what we have here, but it's not an ugly thing. In other words, there are other religions, and I would say even to a certain extent, that we see this in various monotheistic religions, and I think it very easily happens that in an effort to downplay the importance of materialism, you don't want to see any display of gold or silver or beautiful things at all. And here, God is saying something very different. No, 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 no. Aesthetics is important. Gold, silver, look at the detail, the various fabrics, the various colors. These are beautiful things, and they should be taken into account. They should be used for the service of God, but that's it. It should be used for the service of God. It should be displayed, not in order to demonstrate your pride, not in order to flaunt your artistic talents, but both your artistic talents and the beauty that exists in the world, and all of these things are brought together in the Spirit of God and with the wisdom that God has placed on the hearts of these men and all of us when we're all approaching our daily lives. If we take the beauty of this world, but we use it to beautify this world and to serve God, then indeed I think we will have built a beautiful structure. And that is what the tabernacle is. It is a beautiful structure erected in the Spirit of God to worship God. Shabbat Shalom.